And hello, let's make a quick mic check. Yeah, seems working fine. We will start in a minute. And I guess let's start. So, hello everyone. So, problem is that this stream is going to be pretty short because there's a bunch of things to do, and I only now managed to kind of did most of the things and kind of got free from them somehow. I don't know. Yeah. So I think we're going to go right away. It would be a pretty good idea to just make a quick recap what we did last streams. So what we did before, we basically worked on establishing or trying to implementing gestures. So basically we've finished with kind of main composition. We decided where we're going to place everything, and basically we've finished with the so-called how do you probably say it? Explorational to sketching phase, part 1, part 2, I don't know, part 3. So basically we have only one part before we will actually finish this explorational sketching. The only thing that we didn't explore much is the design itself. So, and of course, before we are going to explore the design elements in our explorational sketching phase or stage, we basically need to had to establish some type of gesture. So, kind of try to imagine what poses our characters are going to take. So, and for the most part of the last stream, I was struggling to kind of I fought myself in order to just like start working with gesture, because again, this is something that I'm not that experienced in, so that's why I kind of just sat and procrastinated and just feared to go next. But either way, like along the way, by talking, by kind of trying to plan, analyze, at the end I managed to continue and kind of try to depict some type of suggested gesture that we are going to use as our base to make our characters more appealing and more interesting. Of course, this is not like it's pretty hard to understand what type of poses they're probably making right now, because again, I am imagining them, but they're not that visually obvious. Probably this one is the most obvious one. Probably this one. I don't know if you see it properly. Maybe this one is obvious. This one is not that obvious. But again, for me it's obvious. For the viewer, it might not be. And of course, the cool thing about every artist sees a little bit differently. So for instance, I'm seeing this and I'm seeing something in it. The others could not see anything in it or something different. So basically, depending on who is looking at it, you see different things. So when I see this, I see potential. I see some type of marks where I could go next. I see some type of suggestions that I could use to implement things that I'm imagining. I use this to spark my imagination and make it more clear in order to create much more, I don't know, realistic, much more realistic things that I am imagining in my mind. And the whole thing about this project, so as my channel sandbox, AleksConnects sandbox, is basically to work with visualization. So the more we work with a visualization, the better we become in it. And I will be talking a lot about how visualization works, and basically all these stages that we took so far, they seem unnecessary for probably experienced artists or artists that already maybe don't have that much experience but still are familiar with the creating process. Maybe most of these steps seem unreasonable or pointless or waste of time or whatever. But again, I believe that we need to take these stages, maybe not in this particular way, like writing everything down, bringing categories, trying to ask questions, trying to answer these questions, and trying to establish like the main things about gesture. It not necessarily have to be like this, but but you still need to think about it in your mind in order to create compelling work. I truly believe that. Again, this is only my belief. You can believe different things. So is every human. Everyone believes. Everyone has his or her own beliefs, and yeah. So I'm not going to to stress about you have to do this and this is the only way. No. Again, the whole point for this is just to make you familiar with these things, and then you basically decide whatever you want to do with them. If you want to use this type of methods, use it. If you see something in these methods and you could implement something interesting to your own methods, come on, go ahead. It's going to be awesome. So again, use it whatever you like, in terms of choose what's best for you. Again, the only thing that I actually believe that in order to visualize properly, you actually need to go again through the stages of layering. So let's kind of make quick. So right now what I'm doing is just basically trying to put my mind into work, and one of the ways to do it is basically talk and analyze something and draw something. So since this stream is going to be pretty short, I don't know if I will manage to do something drastic, but still I wanted to make this stream valuable and for me and for you, and so let's just talk about quick things. So what I wanted to say, actually, kind of my mind was just drifted away and I lost my thought. Come on! Seriously? Like, right away? What I talked about? Yeah. So basically I talked about layering stages. So I believe that, let's just call it like visualization. Yeah, probably like this one. Visualization. So the whole thing about visualization, I believe, and at least to my knowledge, I believe that every in order to visualize something, you need to go through the layering stages. So basically there's always some type of first layer, then it goes like a second layer, then goes like third layer, fourth, fifth, sixth, and etc. Basically, the more layers you actually get through, just make it a little bit more obvious in terms of a maybe even more. So what I'm trying to showcase is I'm trying to show that when you start at the beginning, you don't have that much information. So that means that the layers that you start with are pretty small. So basically the process of visualization works something like this. So you start with almost nothing, and then you gradually increase information that you have, and you become basically, let's really just call it layers. Yeah. So well, how process of visualization works in my like how I picture it. again, you have a bunch of layers. So when you start visualizing something, you have only an idea. So you have like, I don't know, like idea. Let's just call it idea. So yeah, when you start visualizing something, you have only idea. This is the only thing that you have, and you kind of have to just like use only this vague thing, because ideas are always vague. They're not like clear. You usually, when you, it might seem clear, but when you start realizing things and actually doing them and trying to put this idea into realization, into reality, it's starting to become pretty clear and pretty fast. It's starting to become obvious that your idea is actually much less clear as you probably visioned it at the beginning. So at the beginning, of course, your idea was like, oh yeah, I have an idea, awesome, it's clear, and yeah, I can realize it, but it doesn't last too long. So as long as you, not as long, I forgot this phrase. Come on. So basically, but when you start working on something, you're starting to realize that your idea was not clear at all. That's why this is our first layer. So idea is always our first layer. Actually, idea / inspiration, because there's no ideas. Ideas usually not coming to you, will not come unless you're inspired. Inspiration. I hope it's right. Let's just make a quick check. If I'm running, inspiration. That was horrible. Inspiration. Yep. Visualisation. 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 Do I make it right? 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 Visualisation. Yeah. Visualisation. Da, правильно. I was right. Visualization. So yeah, basically, in order to visualize, so okay, this is like the final stage of the visualization, like your final work. Yes, there it is. This is our final work. And in order to get to this stage, you have to start somewhere. And usually, inspiration and idea is the beginning point for you. And I believe, like for every creator, no matter what you're doing, either you, I don't know, musician or draftsman of some kind, I think as long as you trying to visualize something, basically by visualization I mean trying to finally realize your idea, you need to go through these stages. I believe it's like a crucial thing. These stages may vary depending on what type of creative you are, because again, when I'm going to talk about particularly about an visual artist who's trying to basically like draw pictures or try to visualize something. It's the same for, I guess, 3D artists, 2D artists, and illustrators, designers, concept artists, whatever. So basically all these so-called genres, I don't know, so-called positions or professions are applicable to this type of visualization. So again, we need to go from a layer 1 to the next layer, and for that we need to do it gradually. So since we can't imagine like our idea right into final work, we can't do this because we would be geniuses, or I don't know, even if you have like photographic memory, I don't think that it is actually possible. Even if you have photographic memory, you still use layering method into it, because The only thing, you kind of skip a little bit, you kind of skip steps when you have photographic memory, but you still have to go through the layering stages. At least it's how I understand it, because again, if you don't have photographic memory, of course, then you just like visualizing something, trying to put into this visualization more and more information, and the more information you put into this visualization, so plus layer, plus layer, plus layer, plus, and in the end you end up in the final work. And all these stages that I did before, like this stage, trying to figure out what type of primary, tertiary, secondary focus we have, with what type of information we're actually working with. So this is a character, we need to know what type of character we're working on, setting, scenario, what is the primary. Yeah, we have to establish some type of a quick and short story. Of course, if we're working with a single illustration, this story has to be preferably quick. If we're working with something more complex like serious projects, which I'm going to work on in future, I already kind of have a couple of projects in development, but they are so complex that I'm kind of scared to take on them, because when it comes time that I will start to deal with this project, with these projects, it will definitely take a lot of time. As you see, I'm kind of taking a lot of time by creating a single illustration. Can you imagine how long it could be for me to create a serial project with a bunch of characters, with a bunch of settings, with a story behind it? So development of these things is not that hard in terms of understand what type of information you need to put in, what type of story is going to be, and what type of characters are going to be there. But actually visualize it, it's much more harder, because again, then you have to go through these layering stages. And actually the process of idea is actually like going through, usually it's some type of a reading stage, so I don't know, like description stage. Yeah, usually it goes for some type of description stage. Of course, when you have some type of a vague idea in your mind, you have to describe it somehow. You can't just like, boom, I have idea and start creating it. Better way is to just describe this idea. Describe it for yourself, describe it in text. Some people describing this idea in sketches. So describing idea is kind of pretty versatile thing. I guess you can describe idea in different ways, but as long as you're describing it, you putting this idea through the next layer, or adding the next layer for this idea, and now it starts to it begins to realize itself slowly. Then after description, it goes like more and more information. I'm not going to dig deep in these things. We're going to talk about it later, but I just wanted to show how basically I'm seeing this process and why it take me so long to do it, because I'm trying to put together what type of layers we actually need to kind of gather one another in order to get the best result in our final work. Because again, it all depends on your experience, it all depends on your visual memory and how good you actually able to put this visual memory and apply it in practice. Because you can have a pretty rich visual library, and but when it comes to applying it, for instance, in reality, like just basically starting to draw something, you can struggle. And the reason why you're probably struggling like, for you at least, it seems like, yeah, I have a pretty rich visual library, but for some reason I can't implement this visual library into practice. Again, it's all revolves around the practice itself. So in order to learn how to do it, you just basically have to do it. So for the long period of time, I kind of put in my visual library a bunch of things, but I didn't work on actual practice how to put this information from my visual library into work. and now I'm kind of starting to do it slowly, and it's pretty challenging, but in the end I'm finally kind of overcome my demons so-called demons, and finally try to work on these things, which I am glad that I started to do so, because before that was hard, like being constantly in this suppressing stage when I basically like know everything about like the process, almost not everything, but everything that I need to know at this point about process, everything that I need to know about fundamentals and whatever. So knowing all of this and not implementing this for me was like just suppressing the things that I had to do long before, I don't know, a long time ago. But still, procrastination, fear, perfectionism, yes, it was a problem for a long period of time. So yeah, I'm not going to bug you with these details. So it was hard, but now it's finally moving somewhere and it's cool. I felt stagnant. I felt yeah, so basically I was like in a constant state of stagnation, and that was a horrible thing to be in, because when you kind of feel stagnant, it's pretty depressing thing to do, to feel. Not probably as depressive as some other things in life, but like comparing to what I'm talking about, yeah, it was pretty depressing. Yeah, so then the only thing that I need to do to get rid of this feeling is just to conquer my fears, and I hope you will do the same. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is to basically inspire someone to basically conquer their fear, because we all have some type of fear, no matter who you are, no matter what you're working on, whatever what your current status current status is, life status, I mean, in what conditions you are, in what type of conditions you are actually right now. We all have some type of things that we fear of. The thing is, are we realizing our fears and trying to conquer them, or we just running from them and trying to suppress them? And by doing that, we just staying at the same place when we've been before. We're not moving anywhere, and it's not a very good state to be in. Psychologically, it's pretty demanding. It basically wears you out. So you just become the more time you are in this state, the worse it becomes. So it's like taking bomb, and it's never a good thing though. So basically, yeah, the only thing is just conquer your fears. So for me, I feared most of these things, and now I just kind of started to getting sick of everything about my fears. And one day I just decided to, not one day, but there was a bunch of days that kind of accumulated into one big day, that I basically decided, screw everything, I need to start conquering my fears in much more efficient way. Not that I didn't try to conquer them before, but I kind of did it pretty hesitantly. So like, I will do small amount of things and let's see what's happened. So basically, I grew every day, but I didn't grow as much as I wanted to. So yeah, and one day I just decided, come on, let's just stop procrastinating, stop doing, stop like doing, talking about theory and going into one particular state all the time, and let's just start to focus on something that actually will help you to grow, or at least makes your growth much more efficient. And when I actually decided to kind of launch my YouTube channel, I started to work on my designs, so AleksConnects designs. I started to create avatars. I started to basically work on my on becoming an entrepreneur. So this is one of my goals, life goals, to become an entrepreneur, and basically all things that was added to this. So the first, it was just posting on social media, which I didn't done before. So like I was not present in social media before at all. So basically just getting out of my comfort zone slowly, step by step, but taking big steps. So not like just small steps, but big steps. And for me, these were big steps, and still all steps that I'm doing are big steps. For instance, like launching Magic the Gathering MTG study that I basically start today. Later, that I will start today. Later, making all these things, designs for it, designing what I'm going to post, how I'm going to post it, planning hashtags, planning how it's going to be. So basically all these things, they have to, so they need, so no, they demand this, they demand time and effort, and it seems easy, but when you're trying to do everything at once, it's kind of makes things much more overwhelming. And I'm probably kind of, for myself, done things pretty overwhelming for myself, like starting a Twitch channel, starting a YouTube channel, and like all these things together. And now I have so much work to do, and I don't have much time for it, but I still wanted to share with other people all things that I know, all things that I kind of all knowledge that I know possess, and at the same time learn, because again, push myself, learn and grow as a human being, and meet new people, establish new connections, which was the problem for me before, because I am actually scared to encounter people, and kind of, not like in real life, there's no problem with it, but when it comes to actually meeting people and, I don't know, starting to talk with them about something, it's pretty nerve-wracking for me, but slowly I think I will conquer all these uncomfortable feelings and learn. So that's one of the reasons why I guess for now there's not much, or I would say no activity in my chat, because I don't have that much viewers, or don't have any. And it actually kind of feels a little bit, I don't know, I feel that I can be like myself and free. I don't need to pretend in front of everyone. This makes things, in terms of adjusting to new things, a little bit more easier. I think if right away someone would be in the chat and constantly like write something, I would definitely, it would definitely throw off me from thinking and from doing things, and I would definitely start to be nervous and forget what I wanted to say always. So yeah, we let's just start. We have about an hour. I'm definitely not going to extend the stream because I have a bunch of things to do after this, so let's just go. Yeah, I kind of put my mind into work by talking about things, and now let's just start. Okay, so basically we stopped on establishing these gesture lines. After we established gesture lines, basically now we need to figure out what stage is next. I didn't had a lot of time to think about it, so let's just think about it now. Yeah, doing things live. What we're going to do next. So basically, next we have to do we have two choices. The first choice that we have is to go straight into reference gathering stage, which is going to be the next stage after our fourth stage. So basically there's going to be a fifth stage, and it's going to be called, I don't remember how it's called, so reference gathering based on design and construction. And we already asked the right questions where we need to answer on this stage. So basically we already have needed descriptional, or how do you probably say it, descriptive information in terms of what we are going to search for. So we're going to search for particular character poses, interacting with particular elements. We're going to basically do all these things the proper way. So yeah, so we established like inner proportions in this point, and all these things are basically going to, all these questions will be the base for our future answers. What our chairs are going to look like, what our statues are going to look like, surroundings, interior, the quintessence itself, accessories, character poses, and etc. And we also try to establish these character poses from the beginning. And the main idea is so basically right now I'm trying to kind of separate my mind into two different directions, and I need to decide what to do next. What is going to be beneficial, or the most beneficial way to approach the next stage. So either we are going to reference stage, trying to search particular references, putting this information into our visual library, which makes us much more confident in terms of design, experiments, and then we are going back into experimentational stage, like we're going to fifth stage, then we're getting back into fourth stage, and we are basically implementing all these things how we are actually picturing it. This is the, and then of course when we are finished completely with an explorational sketch, we're going to complete search. So we're getting back into fifth stage, reference gathering based on yeah, the reference gathering stage based on construction and design, and then we are actually working on it, like we are actually studying complete construction. We're trying to understand true form, and so yeah, this is the first way. And the second way is just skip this explorational sketching phase and just go straight to our design and construction stage. Then study these designs and never go back into our explorational stage. So basically the main thing to decide for me right now is what I should do. Should I go this way, like I leave this as it is, then go into reference gathering stage by using all this information and and information that I gained right here, and the information that I have here, and my imagination and my what I'm picturing in my mind, and use this information to analyze designs. But this way it's not going to be practical, it's basically going to be somewhat theoretical, and since I am more theoretical thinker, for me it seems much more obvious way to go through. But the problem is, intuitively I think that I will benefit from this additional stage, from taking these steps like back and forth. So for instance, now we are on a explorational 2D sketching stage, then I am going to reference search, like for instance right now. Then I'm kind of making in about half an hour, maybe 15 minutes, whatever it's going to take me to figure out what type of things I like about these designs, and then I will go into this stage and I'm actually trying to implement, not like completely this design, but basically make things loose. So make a suggestion to designs how they could look, and by having this information, it will definitely benefit us if we are going to go into complete reference gathering stage, fifth stage, like when we fully go into like finish this one and go into reference gathering stage. So the more information we have here, the better it will be for us later, because I think I definitely, like, knowing myself, I think I will be frustrated if I will skip this stage. This stage I fear this stage pretty much, so for me it's pretty scary, because I need to like really sit and imagine every design element, and there's going to be a bunch of details put into these elements, and what I fear the most, that's time what I will spend on these designs, not going to be well spent time. This is one of the fears that I'm having, because again, it all comes from an experience, of course. If I was an experienced artist in terms of a practice, again, I'm not that experienced in practice, and that's why I'm struggling with what step is going to be next. And also the problem which I'm actually having is I always try to structurize things and make things to follow along some type of process. So for me, it's important to every step has to go one by one, and when something like this happens, when I'm intuitively feel that I need to go into the next step and then go back to the previous step, it kind of throws me off. I kind of start feeling my brain don't like this type of things and working back and forth. But the problem about any creation process, it always has to be versatile. As long when you start to put on your process restrictions, it becomes, I don't know, something bad happens to it. You have to put some type of restrictions on your process always, but these restrictions has to help you, but not prevent you from doing something. And I feel like if I will choose this stage, like keeping this as it is and then go into the reference gathering stage and not come back to this, then I will definitely struggle, and it will definitely prevent me from achieving better results, I think. So yeah, I think self-analysis is over. That was basically self-analysis. This is basically how I usually try to analyze things. I try to put two things that I am actually separate about, feel separate about, or divided about, and then I will just basically try to choose the one that will benefit me the best by get rid of things that I'm not sure of. So basically, I will always choose something that will be more efficient in terms of learning, or in terms of studying, or in terms of the final quality, or whatever. I rarely think about how many time I will spend on this. Of course, when you are going to work with a client work, when you have a deadline, you actually need to think about time too. And when time becomes a factor, it actually becomes much more harder to deal with things, unfortunately. So, yappish knappish. Ooh, so yeah, I kinda got a little bit tired. So yeah, I guess I will make a quick break. Go to drink a little bit of water because my voice is kinda feels down. And after this quick break, I guess we will go into the stage that I decided to take. So by actually going through the reference search quick, reference search, then go back and try to implement this reference search into our work, and then after we implement these things into our work and suggest our design, we finally will end this fourth stage that already lasts week, 1.5 weeks, I guess. It's pretty long stage. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so we are going to go, finally we'll end this stage, and we are going to use all this information that we gathered throughout the exploration on Sketch, and further information that we are going to gather in order to continue to our final stages. I consider this beginning stage so basically we're going to have about 10 stages. Right now we're on 4th stage, and I'm still considering this stage as a beginning stage. So basically, when it comes to art, there's no middle stage. I think there's a beginning stage and there's a finalization stage, or the final stages, because when you are at the beginning stages, you're usually developing things, you're trying to work on them, and they're actually seem as the beginning stages always. So you never feel like these are some type of a middle stages. So that's why there's no middle stage, or at least I'm not seeing middle stage when it comes to creating art. For me, it's only the beginning stage, which basically goes from 1st to 5th. And then we go to actually like the final stages, when we actually work on final composition, final values, final lighting, colors, materials, and then we just basically go into rendering. And these are the final stages mostly, plus reference gathering on materials and lights, whatever. So yeah, basically there's no like middle stages. So beginning stage is the longest one in terms of a development, of course, but it depends on what type of rendering you're going to do. If it's going to be too detailed and work is pretty hard, pretty overloaded with elements, then the rendering stage could take you even longer. But either way, in the end, our main goal is to finish our work, so we are going to do that. So yeah, I will make a quick break and we'll be back in a minute.
And I'm back!
I hope that was not too loud. So yeah, let's continue. The problem is that, of course, I kind of understand the fact that it takes me too long to make this work, and it's all about patience. Of course, I'm pretty passionate about this work in terms of I know what type of time I can spend on this work, and for me, the main thing is the quality of work. I'm not that concerned about the speed because I believe that you actually learning more when you're creating long-term projects than you're creating short-term projects, because when you're working on a short-term projects, they're pretty fast. They're gone in 1 day or 2 days, and you basically forgot about them. And you rarely get something from them in terms of information that you are gathered and in terms of everything else. And this actually creates a bit of a problem, because the problem here is that like someone actually believes that and this is not a bad thing. If you believe that way, it's completely normal. So there are people that believe that you learn only with a speed. So, and right away when they start learning or studying drawings, they just draw like crazy. They draw a bunch of things, so they're practical thinkers. They don't think that the information that they're gathering, that analytical approach, is actually something that works. And for their brain, probably practical way of just repetition is a good way. And actually, repetition way is good for everyone. The more you repeat something, the better you get in this. But the problem is, I always think about efficiency, and I don't think that this is the most efficient way to actually study. The ideal way, of course, is to combine both. So you combine repetition with equality, or I don't know. This is pretty strange comparison. Yeah, so basically for me, I think that combining theory, so you definitely have to know what you're working with. So theory actually provides me with answers, first with questions, with the proper questions, and then with the proper answers. If you don't have any knowledge about drawing, or you have a limited amount of knowledge about like painting or whatever artistic things, then it creates restriction for you. You create basically restriction for yourself, and not one restriction but many restrictions. And the less you know, the more restrictions you have. And why this is bad probably is because, and I think people that actually kind of depend on repetitiveness, they are just either don't want spend time on theory, or they in their mind they don't think that theory is thing that is that important, and they're basically just working with repetition. But again, you can repeat bad things, and the only thing that will get better in is drawing bad things. In terms of quality, you will become a little bit better in drawing bad things, and maybe they will become less bad, but it wouldn't change the fact that they're still bad. So, and that's why I'm actually kind of believe in theoretical approach more. Again, I'm not disregarding in any way practical approach. I just feel like you don't have to focus on only one thing. And I'm not focusing only theoretical approach, because the problem about theoretical approach is if you go through theory and just work on theory, you're not going through practice. And again, if you're not going through practice, you're not producing any product. So if we like compare a practitioner practical thinker. I don't know. And theoretical thinker. I hope it's right. Let's just check this out. Learning English on a go. Thinker. Yep. And theoretical. And practical, I think. Right. So, if you're a practical thinker or theoretical thinker, of course your mind works a little bit differently. But what I actually believe is that you don't have to, I guess, depend only on one thing. Of course you have to combine all things, and for theoretical thinker it becomes at some point pretty hard, so as for practical thinker. So basically theoretical thinker is usually working with, so okay, hello theoretical thinker, you are, is, theoretical thinker, well, so theoretical thinker is basically me. Yes, let's just call it me, or myself. I know, me, just me. Yeah. So, as the theoretical thinker, what I'm actually encountered throughout the years is I kind of stumbled upon like big problem. Okay, I know a lot. So basically, there's always a lot of knowledge. I know how to depict properly knowledge visually. Think, how could I appropriately show knowledge? Brain. Okay, book. Let's just showcase some type of book. So yeah. So yeah. Let's just imagine that this is a horribly drawn book. This is actually a horribly drawn book. It doesn't look like a book at all. Kinda wanted to draw an open book, but let's just draw a closed book. Let's just imagine that this is our book with knowledge. So this is knowledge. So yeah, we have as theoretical thinkers, probably, I guess, I hope so. We have pretty good knowledge about what we are, what it needs to, what we need to create to produce art. But the problem is, if you're just a theoretical thinker, you're not producing that much content, so not that much work. So basically, it doesn't mean that you don't have any works. Like any work, I think theoretical artists, of course, like produce some work, but it's pretty small. Draw it like 3, only 3. So basically, going only with knowledge equals 3. I don't know actually when I'm aiming for by talking about this. It's actually a pretty broad topic, and I don't think that I will eventually lead to some like crazy understanding of this. But like the only thing that I'm kind of wanted to showcase right now, it actually goes much deeper than this. But like, in order to just start this topic and in terms of, yeah, starting it for bringing up this topic in the future, the practical thinkers basically have completely different things. So practical thinker is usually only works with the practical things, which is kind of understandable. Yes, the practical thinker is creates more work, Nope, 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 nope. Let's just hope that my crazy intensive movements will not make Krita. By the way, new version of Krita is out. I still didn't install it, but I probably will, maybe today or on this week. So practical thinkers basically, of course, creates much bigger amount of work. But the problem is that he doesn't have that much knowledge. I think, yeah, let's just put it like this. Whoa. Up, up, up. Let's just work with sizes. So theoretical thinkers basically have a pretty extended knowledge about things. But he or she usually doesn't have that much work produced. And the cool thing is, or not the cool thing, but the thing is that I'm kind of thinking of, that I believe that by having a big amount of knowledge, yes, you will create less work, but this work will be much bigger in terms of quality. So this is of course bigger than this one, and let's just make it even bigger in order to compare it. So yeah, we're gonna create something like this to compare it to 4 works. Maybe. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, come on, man. Work with me. Come on, work with me. Yeah, this is work. So yeah. But the work that theoretical thinker I believe will create is going to be in terms of a quality better than the work that of course will be produced by a practical thinker, at least if we will consider the fact that that practical thinker and theoretical thinker were started from one point. So they have they draw and paint for the same period of time. So, and this is like, for instance, these are the twin brothers. The first twin brother is a practical thinker. The second twin brother twin is a theoretical thinker. And basically, theoretical thinker has much more knowledge, but he is creating less work, but this work has more quality, bigger quality, because a theoretical thinker is putting more thought into work, into creating every work, and gradually the more he or she creates, the bigger these works are getting in terms of a quality. He grows or she grows much faster because he or she has knowledge. So theoretical thinker has knowledge, and he or she uses this knowledge to enhance these small amount of works much more in a bigger way. When we are talking about practitioner or practical thinker, it actually it's much more slower process. For instance, yes, there's a growth too. It is a small amount of knowledge, of course, and if practical thinker is having knowledge, I think he or she is not actually. So right here, a theoretical thinker is pretty sure about knowledge. He knows or she knows where to use things and whatever. Right here, knowledge is not that evident, and in my opinion, like if you're just a practical thinker and you're not like theory that much and trying to avoid it, that means that you're not necessarily know how to use it, of course. and some intuitional things are coming along the way, and probably like in maybe 20 works, practical thinker starting to become a little bit better, I think. Okay, let's just make it smaller. Yeah, we don't have that much space in here. Shoot. Just make it small. Yeah, in the end it actually kind of becomes too small. Let's just get with this. So for instance, yeah, for theoretical thinker, basically in most of the time the gradual growth is not happening, so you not feel it. It goes so slow that at some point it actually becomes frustrating, because this is one of the reasons why I didn't practice that much, because for me it always seemed like if I don't have proper knowledge, I'm wasting my time. So like, and the only thing that I'm getting is frustrating, and then like one work is finally becomes a little bit bigger, and then from that it could go back actually in creating a bad things, because again, this work could become bigger, but you not necessarily know why this work is bigger. So because you don't have that knowledge, so you can't actually analyze it intuitively. You could like learn something from it, but in terms of a strict practitioner or practical thinker, is usually it goes like only one way, and yeah, with time they start to getting big. So with time, of course, they become bigger, and at the end practitioner will achieve this state, of course, and the other states, but it will take him like, or her, all of this. So you have to go through like this amount of work with crazy inconsistency, like creating bad work, whoo, one awesome work, then bad work, whoo, couple of awesome works, and then again bad work, and then again some awesome work. So you basically kind of, at least this is how I'm seeing it. Of course, it's not like I'm not like stating that this is actually how it goes, but in my opinion, I think this is how it usually goes. Not for everyone, but usually this is how I'm actually seeing this. So because you don't have that much knowledge as a practical thinker, first thing that you have is an inconsistency. Second thing that you have, eventually you will go through this work, but again, in order to go to this work, you have to spend that much kind of things, and not only time valuable for this, but your actual physical strength. You can physically kill yourself in terms of for instance, I worked and practiced too much, and I basically almost always killed my wrist, and it actually makes me less capable of do more things, when this method is much more safe, but again, you're producing less work. So frustration goes from here and from here. You feel frustrated here because you are inconsistent. You feel frustration here because you're kind of working with things, they don't work, and then you stumble upon good work, you feel that you're good again, but then you're getting in the path of creating bad work. Basically, this is a roller coaster, and this roller coaster is actually kind of makes you frustrated. At the end, of course, you will come if you are patient enough, and you will put time and effort to it, if you add knowledge to it, if you gain experience, if you basically, with time, this method, of course, working. I don't kind of state that this method is bad or something, but for me, like, this method, when you're actually sure about knowledge that you're having, and this knowledge is pretty strong, the only thing that you need to learn is to how to implement this knowledge in every work that you're creating. Yes, you will create less work, but this work is going to be more more quality work, and you don't have to go through these crazy stages of creating a bunch of bad works and feel bad about it. So the bad thing about this phase, you feel frustrated because you're not creating anything. So you basically feel frustrated because you are stagnant. You constantly in the state of stagnation, which makes you constantly second guess yourself, second guess your approach and how you're doing it. And this was basically the things that I am encountered throughout all my learning process and all my artistic experience. And the only reason why I encountered these problems is because I strictly was and still kind of theoretical thinker only. But again, as all theoretical thinkers, at some point you have to realize that you need to put this practice on, in reality, or some. You need to put this practice. I forget the phrase. To work, basically. And yes, you have knowledge. You're sure about this knowledge, and it's a good thing. And actually, theoretical thinkers is usually becoming a good teachers. Not that I am a good teacher, but again, I hope I will someday become one. Because the good thing about theoretical thinkers, yeah, that was fun. The good thing about theoretical thinkers, I believe that since you have this knowledge, yes, you create less work, but this work much more quality work. And you grow much faster in terms of the works. Okay, for instance, now when I'm talking about this, I created like one work, and by creating this, I learned a lot. I learned so much more. I learned so much. How do you probably say that? It's probably compared to this one. I don't want to exaggerate, but like let's exaggerate that. For instance, if you can, or maybe like this one even. So, for a practical thinker, in order to learn all these things that I learned from this work, practical thinker has to go through all these stages. Like yes, he will produce art, but most of this art is going to be predominantly bad, and he has to deal with it, or she has to deal with it. And this is actually pretty hard on psychology when you are producing something and you're constantly producing something bad. Of course, psychologically for us, we would want to create something good right away, but it's not working like that. And usually in order to create something right away good, we need to, or at least decently good, we need to go either for these stages like constant repetition, or for these stages like gaining knowledge, learning how to put it on practice, and learn in each work gradually. But this gradual growth is going to be much more bigger. So basically, this is what I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I spent most time talking and not a lot of working. It's all because I'm a practitioner. I'm not a practitioner. I'm more theoretical thinker. That's why I need to go through theory in terms of like analyze things, and it's pretty interesting to hear it from me because I don't have that much work to show you in terms of like show that I actually creating quality work. But I hope this work is going to be a quality work, at least for me, and it will definitely help me to finally go from the stage of knowledge to the stage of creating my first analytical work by using all this knowledge, and then the other works that I'm going to create will help me to grow more. Because again, the reason why it's going to be like this, because I am going to put in every project all my knowledge, all this knowledge, and it makes it much more efficient. Because again, when a practical thinker working on this work, he or she usually not putting any type of knowledge. Basically, the only thing that he or she putting it there is the experience. And of course, the more works you get, the previous experiences of these works goes into this work. So that's how it's actually growing. And since these type of experiences are not aware, so you're not usually becoming aware of this growth. Since this growth is not controllable, it doesn't have any control, you're not aware what you actually learn from each project. And depending on what type of projects you're kind of facing, it all kind of works differently. Again, this is what I actually believe and how I think about things. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, I don't know. It's not for me to decide. I think for now I will be open to this concept. In future I maybe will change it. Again, it's all about growth, and for now and most of my learning experience, I kind of decided to believe that this is a true thing. Ideally, of course, either way you have to produce, and ideal way would be a combination of these. Yeah, so the ideal one, of course, is combination of these two, because of course if you are only a practical thinker, it's pretty painful. It's actually really painful, because I tried to be a practical thinker, and for me it was like crazy painful. Maybe because I tried to become the one person that I'm not. Maybe that's why, but again, it was pretty painful. And I decided that this is not for me, and rather than spend time on this, I would rather spend time on this. And most of my artistic years I actually spent time on gathering knowledge, on learning how to work with it, on developing programs that will work for me and in the future hopefully work for others. Try to understand how art works in terms of psychology, how to not feel this frustration, how to control this frustration in order to push forward and not feel not constantly feel down about yourself and procrastinate constantly. So that's why I chose this type of way of thinking, theoretical thing. But again, ideally this would be an awesome thing, because if you got with this one, with this method, ideal one, like the combination of these two, theoretical and practical, then you, like, can you imagine, you have awesome amount of knowledge, and now you're actually implementing awesome amount of knowledge to producing much more work. Of course, the ideal way is not going to be that much small works. I think they're going to be maybe like this, something like this. We will produce more work than you would produce by being only a theoretical thinker, but it's still going to be, and you will learn on practically. So yeah, that's basically the thing that I wanted to say about it. And since we're already kind of at the end, we have about 15 minutes, I guess, which is a downer. I kind of wanted to be much more. Again, this is a crazy small stream, so let's just go into our reference gathering search. So, and we will end on our reference gathering search. And from tomorrow's stream, I will basically spend on trying to get something from this reference gathering and actually implement everything into a design stage. Yeah, my voice feels crazy down. Not very beautiful feeling. So in terms of how we would go with the reference search, of course, let's just bring up our reference thing. Like no, web browsing, probably, I don't know. Web browsing, where are you? I don't see it though. Yeah, I can't manage to do it, so let's just go with this one. Let's just test this one and see how it works. Yeah, it works fine. So I guess if I will go to right here, it will work fine. Yep. So do you see it? I hope you are. Yeah, it's visible. So yeah, in terms of a reference gathering, we basically, before that, in an explorational reference gathering stage, we are search for these things. By doing this, we are established where we are going to push this idea. We basically kind of established how we are going to work with things. So I probably couldn't create this one if I wouldn't go through this reference stage, because it doesn't seem obvious, because if you like see these references, there's nothing familiar from these references that you could implement right here. Probably somewhere you could encounter some type of thing that I could kind of implement right here, but if it seemed obvious, it wasn't obvious for me. It all like became at some point intuitive thing for me, and this is basically the thing that this stage is for. It's there for you to let you take intuitive decisions in forming what your future work will look like. And of course we didn't have that much right here, and I said before that the best way for now for us is to gather much more informational reference in terms of the poses, in terms of how characters will go to look like, is to work with actual scenes from the movies. And since we don't have the ability to do it, so basically you have a couple of ways to do it. First, you find film by buying it or searching it, like best moments on YouTube. So basically how you do it is, let's just Angry Birds movie scenes. Yeah, so you're just basically searching for Angry Birds movie scenes, right? And there you have it. So you can go on YouTube and just simply search for different videos. For instance, right here, Angry Birds movie funniest scenes, and search poses from there. So basically there is information, so you don't have to like buy this film on Blu-ray, on DVD. You actually can use legible resources to do it and not spend money on it. I don't think that for every film this is the thing that you can encounter, but again, you could go even from pictures. As we see, like for pictures, we actually have pretty decent amount of information even in Google search, in terms of what we could kind of work with. So for instance, if we would like compare these sizes, so we definitely didn't find these on Pinterest, maybe because we didn't search it properly, but still. So don't stick to one reference gathering resource. Use every instrument possible. If you have these films in your possession in reality, in case of Blu-ray and DVD or digital version, use it. Make snapshots of scenes that you like, that you feel will inspire you to some particular pose, because again, like this for instance pose is pretty similar to pose that I would probably use on Chuck. The only difference, like, it would probably change a little bit, but still this is a pretty good reference example how you could depict properly this character in pose that you want to put him into. So this is one of the ways to do it. So just basically search for a not Angry Birds. For instance, let's just go with Transformers. It actually can find a bunch of interesting things for us. Yeah, Transformers movie scenes. Of course, you can stumble upon a bunch of interesting things in here too. So this is the way to search. Again, there's a bunch of scenes in right here, again, like pure action scenes where you mostly can see the details of the transformers. I'm not going to launch these right here because it's not going to be a pretty good thing to do. So I'm basically just telling you how you would probably go into reference search, especially when you work with the character art, or not with the character but with the fan art. When you work on your personal project, of course, it becomes much more harder thing to do, because then you need to establish similar things to your project and then search within these frames that you are established. But again, we will go into personal projects much more later, after we finish with this one, and then we will talk about that definitely. But for now, again, how you would approach this type of a reference search is by simply saving some pictures, basically searching movie scenes, because movie scenes is one of the things, again, either get somewhere movie itself and look through it and try to figure out what type of scenes you would use as a reference, or for instance, somewhere here they're actually used bubbles. Yeah, they launched bubbles somewhere here in the movie, which could be, for instance, our reference for the bubbles. So yeah, I will start with the next stream on basically showing what type of reference I gathered from these things, because again, oh yeah, here it is. So this is basically bubbles, and this is the perfect picture of all our characters in one place. So we have Bomb, we have Chuck, we have Bubbles, and we have Red. Isn't it cool? So yeah, that way you usually work with the references. So either search them by specifics like this, or not specifics but general things. But when you're starting work with details, as we need to work right now, because we need to establish like particular designs, and when you work with particular designs, this information is usually not that helpful unless you want to strictly copy some type of designs from this character into your character. And this way, of course, this will be helpful for us. But when your inspirational references are not working, you of course go through the additional reference search. As always, it's a good thing to do. And additional reference search will basically allow you to gather right amount of information to be sure what type of design you will depict. Again, here we have expressions. Here we have we have a bunch of information to analyze, and we now can implement this information into our characters. So we're not seeing only one picture of, or a couple of pictures, like demonstrational pictures of Chuck. We're not seeing only 2 pictures of Bubbles. We're not seeing only 1 picture of Red, or a couple of pictures with Red. We actually now have variety to add in our brain, to our imagination, to then use this variety for putting what we imagine into reality. So yeah, on that note, I'm going to slowly finish, because again, unfortunately I have a lot of things to do. I can't extend this stream and actually work on these references more. But again, next stream we're going to basically start with this. We are going to analyze what type of references we're going to use and how we are going to work with them proper way. Probably the good thing, the best thing would be if we would basically search some type of extension in Opera and add this extension in order to save pins from here into our pin folder on Pinterest, because again, the more things we have right here, the better, and I'm not necessarily want to save these on my computer, and it's not going to be a pretty good thing to save them on the computer, because I could, and you choose whatever you want. If you don't want them on Pinterest, or if these things are enough for you, then of course. But I usually want to organize things, so either I save this on computer and then open them in Photo Viewer, which presents some type of a tile look like this, and then I will see every type of references that I have. Again, I will show you all these things in the next stream. So yeah, this is basically how we approach reference search. Usually we are constantly working with kind of adding more things, making more things apparent, and yeah, and usually everything works like this. So we have and of course, when we have these type of references, it helps us to deal with the problems in a much more structural way. Again, we have exaggerations, we have poses, we have different emotions, and now we have more information to analyze in order to implement them in our work. Yeah, so this is kind of it, I think. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope it's not oh, come on. Yeah, let's just leave it. I hope it was beneficial for you, and you got something from it. I didn't create that much work, but still I talked about pretty interesting stuff, pretty cool things that could help to put mind into thinking in terms of how visualization process works. Again, we will come back to this in much more details in later projects. How practical thinkers work, how theoretical thinkers work, and how is the best way to work is to combine both of them, and how it's beneficial here, and of course here. I hope this will make you understand yourself in much more broad way, because again, the more you understand yourself, the better, and I believe we need to understand why we're doing things and how we are going to do them. That way, the more aware we of our process and what we're doing, the better we will become in the end. On that note, I will finish, and I guess see you in the next stream. Bye bye.